She resisted inspection, so I used necessary force. Children lie, especially the defiant ones. Honestly, the taser got the message across.
That's what Karen Mitchell, president of our HOA, told the cops after she broke into my house, tased my 10-year-old daughter in the chest, then locked the door and stood over her while she convulsed on the floor, calmly listing off imaginary violations and filming it all like it was protocol. No panic, no hesitation, just a twisted sense of power. So I shattered the back door, tackled her to the ground, ripped the taser from her hand, and made her crawl through her own blood, screaming, sobbing, forced to read every HOA bylaw she ever weaponized, with 50,000 volts humming against her spine. 3 minutes later, she wasn't holding a gun. She was holding her own broken teeth. Everything started the day I installed a solar light in my backyard, and Karen decided it was an act of war. I thought I had handled worse in life. Stress at work, late bills, broken pipes, even a neighbor once threatening my dog over a misplaced sprinkler. But nothing prepared me for what began with a simple solar light. It was just a motion sensor lamp. I installed it on a short pole near the back fence, facing the alley. My daughter was 10, and I wanted her to feel safe when I came home late. The light gave her comfort. It gave me comfort. But Karen Mitchell, the HOA president, saw it as a personal declaration of war. The first letter came folded neatly in our mailbox. Lighting in violation of Section 2.3. Must match HOA-approved design. No signature, no warning. I removed it. Then I reinstalled it. She came to the door the next day with a clipboard and a smile like a knife. "If you ignore the rules, we'll have to escalate," she said sweetly, eyes like polished stone. I shut the door before she finished, but she didn't stop. Week after week, violation slips showed up under our door, in the bushes, taped to our trash cans. One night, I caught her on our security camera walking the perimeter of our backyard, measuring. And then there were the photos. A neighbor showed me a group chat where Karen posted a picture of our backyard light with the caption, "Another one who thinks they're above the law." She didn't just hate the light. She hated that someone told her no. I tried to brush it off. Told myself she was just another bitter HOA tyrant with too much time and too little power in her own life. But I was wrong. This wasn't about power. It was about control. And Karen wasn't just enforcing rules. She was waiting for a reason to break into our lives. I didn't know it yet. But that little backyard light? It wasn't the violation. It was the spark. And soon, my daughter would be the one to burn. It started with a fence line and a flashlight. I left home that afternoon for a quick meeting across town. My daughter stayed behind, finishing her art homework, her colored pencils spread across the living room floor like confetti. She was safe. The doors were locked. The cameras were armed. That was supposed to be enough. At 3:42 p.m., our side yard motion camera pinged my phone. Karen Mitchell. Dressed in a pale blue HOA vest and cargo pants, she let herself in through the side gate. No knock, no permission. She didn't even look at the camera as she passed under it. Just walked with purpose, like she belonged there. She carried a clipboard, a laser measuring device, and, God help me, a small stun gun holstered on her hip like she was a mall cop in a bad movie. My stomach twisted. She was muttering to herself, pointing at the solar light like it had insulted her ancestors. I watched her measure the pole height, the bulb angle, even the distance from the flower bed. And then, she stepped up to the back door. She opened it, didn't knock, didn't hesitate, just twisted the handle and walked into my house. My little girl was inside, alone. I called home. No answer. My hands trembled as I called again. Still nothing. I stared at the camera feed as Karen vanished through the doorway. A full 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. Then my phone buzzed. New alert. Interior motion sensor triggered. Living room. Something inside me snapped. This wasn't violation slips or gossip anymore. This was trespassing. This was criminal. This was a predator in my home. And worst of all, my daughter didn't even know the monster had walked in. What Karen didn't understand, what she never understood, was that crossing a fence wasn't the same as crossing a father. She hadn't just stepped onto my property. She had stepped into my warpath. The last thing my daughter remembered before the pain was the sound of the door creaking open. She looked up from her drawing, a simple sketch of a backyard treehouse, and saw a tall woman with a clipboard, steel gray eyes, and a frozen smile step into the house like she owned it. Can I help you? My daughter asked, clutching her pencil, confused but polite. Karen didn't speak. She scanned the room like a building inspector, walking slowly, boots heavy against the hardwood floor. Her eyes landed on the sliding glass door, then the hallway, then the corner where the solar battery charger sat blinking softly on the floor. "You shouldn't have that," she said flatly. My daughter blinked. "That's just for the light. My dad said it's okay." Karen's lips curled, not in amusement, but disgust. "Your father's not here, and this house violates Section 3.1 and 4.7 of the Maple Creek Residential Covenant. You wouldn't understand." Then, without raising her voice, without warning, Karen reached into her side pouch, pulled out a stun gun, and fired it directly into my daughter's chest. The sound of that crackling spark will haunt my sleep for the rest of my life. The electricity ripped through her small body. She collapsed instantly, hands flailing, legs twitching, a sharp cry bursting from her lips before her head hit the floor with a sickening thud. Karen stood over her, breathing hard, weapon still smoking. She didn't call for help. She didn't panic. She locked the front door from the inside, pulled out her phone, and began pacing the living room like she was logging an incident report. Then, God help me, she started filming. "Intruder neutralized. Suspected tampering with unauthorized equipment. Evidence will be submitted to board," she narrated, calm as a machine. My daughter was still conscious, barely. Her fingers twitched. She whimpered once. Karen leaned down, crouching beside her, and whispered, "You'll remember this next time you think rules don't matter." She walked to the hallway closet, opened it, and began inspecting our circuit box. That's when the security alert hit my phone. Interior motion, living room, tampering detected, circuit access, and my world turned inside out. I dropped everything, wallet, phone charger, keys, and ran. Ran like my lungs were splitting. Ran like a man chasing the last breath of his child. Ran like a father who'd just realized the devil wasn't coming. She was already inside. "Are you still watching?" Comment. "Yes, if you're here. I need to know who's still with me." I broke every speed limit on the way home. The red security alerts kept lighting up my phone like sirens in my hand. Motion detected, circuit tampering, unauthorized access. My daughter still wasn't answering. Every possible nightmare looped in my head. I prayed I was wrong. I begged myself to be overreacting. Maybe the camera glitched. Maybe Karen just peeked in. But the pit in my stomach told the truth long before I reached our street. Our front door was closed, locked, curtains drawn. Karen's silver Lexus was parked crooked across our driveway, front wheels kissing the curb like she'd slid in on a mission. I bolted to the porch, yelling my daughter's name. Nothing. I tried the doorknob. Locked. Deadbolt turned. The same lock I had installed after the last Karen incident, when she showed up at 6 a.m. to measure our front hedges in her bathrobe. I pounded on the door. "Open up! Karen, open this door right now!" No answer. Through the side window I caught a glimpse, her silhouette moving slowly across the living room, that damn clipboard in her hands like a badge of God. And then I saw her stop. She bent down, and my blood froze. My daughter was on the floor, curled, shaking, pale. Karen crouched beside her, writing something. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her mouth was moving. Her hand pointed at the girl who could barely breathe. I ran to the back fence, vaulted it like I was 20 again, tore through the garden, and slammed my shoulder into the back door. Locked. I slammed it again. Again. One more time. The frame cracked. I didn't stop. Because inside my house, there was a woman who had broken in, electrocuted my child, locked the doors, and was now documenting it like a job well done. Neighbors were gathering outside now, some filming, some shouting. Someone asked if they should call the police. "I am the police," I snapped. And just then, Karen looked up through the glass. She saw me, saw the rage in my face, and that smug smile she wore all day. It finally disappeared. That was the moment she realized. She hadn't just walked into someone's house. She'd walked into a reckoning. The back door cracked on the fourth hit. I exploded through it, splinters cutting across my forearm, heat in my lungs, fire in my chest. I didn't see a home anymore. I saw a war zone. My daughter lay limp on the floor, lips pale, eyes half open in a dazed stupor. Her hand twitched against the hardwood like she was trying to hold on to consciousness. The stun gun burns were still fresh on her shirt. And Karen? Karen stood over her, phone in one hand, clipboard in the other, filming like she was hosting a documentary. Her voice was calm, almost bored. The minor resisted questioning. Taser deployed once, non-lethal setting. Reassessing electrical systems for unauthorized modifications. She didn't flinch when I stormed in. She didn't even stop recording. I reached her in 4 strides and ripped the phone from her hand, smashing it against the wall with a crack so loud it stunned the silence. "You touched my daughter?" Karen blinked, not scared, not apologetic, just annoyed. She refused to comply. Section 4.7 allows for reasonable enforcement in matters of... I didn't let her finish. I slammed her against the wall, arm across her chest, the clipboard falling to the floor with a pathetic clatter. Her breath hitched. "That's a child, you psychopath. A 10-year-old girl." She squirmed. "You're assaulting me. I'll press charges." "You already pressed electricity into my daughter's chest. You think I care about charges?" She tried to twist away. I grabbed her wrist, yanked the stun gun from her holster, and held it to her throat. Her body went rigid. "What's the rulebook say about this, Karen? Huh? You want to enforce things? Let's enforce some pain." Her lips trembled. Finally. Fear. The real kind. The kind she'd never shown anyone in her HOA meetings. Not when fining veterans for flying flags, or punishing single moms for flower pots. "Please," she whimpered. "I was just..." I clicked the safety off. "You broke into my house. You hurt my daughter. You locked her in here like she was your prisoner. You smiled while she cried. And now you're gonna beg." I shoved her to the floor. She tripped, slammed onto her side, gasping. I pointed at the open living room, where the HOA rulebook had landed beside my daughter's backpack. "Crawl. Pick it up." She hesitated. "Crawl, or I light you up until your teeth glow." Karen dropped to her hands and knees. "Keep going," I growled. Out loud. "Read the rules. Every damn one." She started to sob, and I didn't care. Because in that moment, I wasn't interested in justice. I was interested in symmetry. Karen's knees hit the hardwood with a dull thump, her breath ragged, her face blotched red with humiliation. She reached for the rule book like it was radioactive, hesitant, trembling, stalling for mercy that didn't exist. Not in my house. Not after what she did. "Pick it up," I snapped, every syllable like a hammer. "Since you love these rules so damn much, let's see how well you actually know them." She scooped the book off the floor, hands shaking so hard the pages fluttered. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but not from guilt, from fear. "Good." "Section 1, I barked. "Start reading, out loud, and don't skip a word." Her voice cracked. Section 1. Property aesthetics and uniformity shall be maintained." "Louder," she flinched. "Shall be maintained," she shouted, almost shrieking, "in accordance with board-approved landscaping and illumination standards." I shoved the stun gun an inch closer to her shoulder, just enough for her to feel the threat humming inches from her skin. "Say it with the same tone you used when you fined that elderly couple $300 for painting their mailbox eggshell instead of beige." She whimpered, sniffling. I was following guidelines." "You were drunk on power. You thought HOA made you a queen. You thought people like me wouldn't push back." Karen looked down, her shoulders slumping. Then I saw it. A smirk. Faint. Fleeting. But it was there. Like she still believed she'd get away with it. Like she thought some lawyer or HOA crony would bail her out. I snapped. I grabbed the back of her neck and slammed her face into the carpet, just hard enough to leave a mark. Read. Her voice shook as she gasped for air. Section 1, Subsection 3. Unauthorized security devices are subject to written complaint and removal by designated. You mean like the solar light that helped protect my daughter while you tased her in her own living room? I leaned in, my voice a growl. What about this subsection, Karen? The one that says breaking and entering is a felony? That assaulting a minor is a federal crime? What rule covers that? She didn't answer, so I cranked the stun gun, let it hiss beside her ear. You know what I think, Karen? I think you were never interested in order. You were just desperate to feel big. I'm sorry, she sobbed. No, you're not, I spat. You're scared. There's a difference. I pointed at the hallway. Crawl to the front door. Keep reading. Don't stop. You're not getting out until you choke on every page of your own power trip. Karen started crawling, scraping her knees on the hardwood, reading through sobs, voice hoarse and breaking. Section 2. All porch fixtures must align with HOA-approved design guides. I watched her drag herself across the floor like a defeated beast, rulebook in hand, humiliation dripping from every syllable. And I thought of my daughter, still curled in the corner, silent. I thought of her eyes, and then I thought, this isn't revenge. This is education. By the time Karen had crawled halfway across my living room, sobbing and stammering her way through HOA Bylaw 2.4, the sound of sirens cut through the air like a blade. Red and blue lights flickered through the front windows. Neighbors gathered behind the police cruisers, some filming, some whispering. A few stood stone-faced with their arms crossed, their eyes saying exactly what mine had said hours earlier. We warned you, Karen. I holstered the stun gun, grabbed the shattered phone from the floor, and picked up the rulebook Karen had dropped again, this time stained with her sweat and smeared mascara. I didn't yell anymore. I didn't need to. I was calm now. Karen was the one unraveling. She scrambled to her knees, wiping her face, trying to adjust her HOA vest like that uniform still meant something. They don't know the full story, she muttered, breath hitching. I was enforcing regulations. He assaulted me. I crouched beside her. Do you want to go ahead and repeat that to the camera? I held up the still recording footage from my security system, playing back the moment she shot 10,000 volts into my daughter's chest. Because I've got 5 angles of you breaking into my house, attacking a child, and locking the door behind you. Go on. Justify that. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. The front door burst open. Police! Hands where we can see them! I stepped back and raised my hands slowly. I'm the homeowner, I said calmly. That's Karen Mitchell. She broke in, used a stun gun on my 10-year-old, and locked the place down. The first officer looked at Karen, then at my daughter, still lying on the couch now, wrapped in a blanket, barely conscious, then back to me. Do you have footage? I handed him the USB drive I'd ripped from the DVR. Everything's time-stamped, every scream, every step she took in my home. Karen sprang up suddenly, voice shrill. I was protecting the community! By electrocuting children? I said, stepping forward. By trespassing and filming my daughter like some deranged warden? She pointed wildly at my living room wall. That light fixture. It violates Article 3.7 of the... The second officer was already cuffing her. You have the right to remain silent, he said, cinching the metal tight. Karen's eyes widened. The panic came fast now. Real. Sharp. Ugly. Wait! You don't understand. I am the HOA. I have authority. Not anymore, I muttered. She twisted in the cuffs. He hit me. He threatened me. And you tased a child, the officer cut in. You're lucky he didn't shoot you. That shut her up. As they escorted her out, a few neighbors stepped aside with smug expressions. One even gave a slow, sarcastic clap. Karen's head sank lower with every step, her face streaked with tears, hair stuck to her skin like a mask melting off. I watched her go, watched the car door shut, watched the lights fade, Then I walked back to my daughter and knelt beside her, her fingers curled around mine, weak but still there. "Is she gone?" she whispered. "She's gone," I said, "and she's never coming back." I glanced around the house, broken door, flipped table, spilled crayons on the floor. But beneath the mess, something else had settled. A silence I hadn't heard in weeks. Not the absence of noise, the absence of fear. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. Courtrooms smell like cold air and sweat, like fear that's been sanitized and recycled. Karen sat 2 rows in front of me, dressed in gray jail-issue clothing, hands cuffed beneath the table, hair tied back tight like she thought control could still be manufactured. But no amount of neatness could hide the bruises of truth. Not when the jury saw the footage. Not when they heard my daughter's voice on the 911 call. Thin, gasping, trying to say help. Not when they watched Karen pace my living room like she was hosting a punishment ritual. Her lawyer tried to spin it, claimed it was all a misunderstanding, a misfire, an unfortunate overreach of community enforcement procedures. They leaned heavily on mental strain, on the pressures of managing a difficult HOA. But the prosecution didn't let up. Neither did I. I took the stand with my knuckles still scarred from breaking the door down. "She didn't just tase my daughter," I told the jury. "She stalked our home. She recorded her own crimes like they were protocol. This wasn't a reaction. This was a plan. And my child was the target." Karen avoided my eyes the entire time. But when the security footage played on the monitor, when they showed the moment she pulled the trigger and my little girl collapsed, the jury turned to look at her, and I watched her crack. She shifted, twitched, bit her lip. Her fingers dug into her thigh like she could hide inside herself. But the image was still there on the screen, looped again for clarity. A grown woman electrocuting a 10-year-old and calling it order. No lawyer could clean that up. When the verdict came, it was unanimous. Guilty on all 6 counts. Aggravated assault on a minor. Breaking and entering. False imprisonment, possession and use of an unregistered weapon, child endangerment, obstruction of justice. Sentencing followed, 9 years, no parole, no plea deal. The judge made it clear. This wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was a warning. "Authority is not a license for cruelty," she said, "and rules are not shields to hide behind when you brutalize the vulnerable." Karen didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just slumped in her seat like something inside her had finally accepted death. Not physical death, but social execution. She was finished. Her name would never be a position of power again. Only a cautionary tale told in hushed tones over backyard fences and HOA meetings gone too far. Outside the courtroom, the neighborhood had gathered. People clapped, not in celebration, in release. I saw the couple she fined for mismatched patio chairs, the veteran whose flag she made take down, the widow she once screamed at for having improper mailbox height. They were all there, and they all nodded at me, not out of pity, out of shared justice. For the first time, we weren't just neighbors. We were survivors of the same storm. And the sky? It was finally clearing. The courtroom emptied like a deep breath finally released. Karen was gone, shackled, filed away into a system she once thought was beneath her. But justice isn't a door you walk through. It's something you have to build, board by board, with the people beside you. And that's exactly what we did. 2 weeks after the verdict, the HOA board resigned. Every last member, some out of fear, others out of shame. A few just disappeared, leaving nothing but blank profile pictures in our neighborhood app and silence where threats used to live. The bylaws were suspended, every fine paused, every citation voided. We held the first real community meeting on a Tuesday evening under the oak tree in the park. No clipboards, no dress codes, just chairs, open hands, and bruised people trying to figure out what healing might look like. I didn't speak at first. I didn't need to. The woman Karen screamed at over rose bushes stood up and said, "I stopped planting flowers the year she made me cry in front of my son. This spring, I'm planting everything." People applauded, not politely, fiercely. Then the elderly man she fined for having a rusty grill said, "I didn't want to repaint it. My wife bought it for me. She's gone now. I'm keeping the rust. Someone shouted, "Amen to that." And slowly, our stories became our glue. No one even mentioned the word HOA. We didn't need it anymore. We drafted a new charter, not laws, not restrictions, just 5 promises, handwritten on poster board and posted on every mailbox pole in the neighborhood. Respect is louder than rules. Children are never collateral. Disagreement isn't a crime. Your house is your home, not their project. No more Karens. Ever. At home, my daughter was recovering, still tired, still flinching at loud sounds, but stronger. I let her pick the color of the new light in the backyard. She chose a soft golden hue and named it Sunflower. "Because it doesn't scare anything," she said. "It just watches." The new fence is lower now. No more spikes, no more keep out signs. We painted it white. She drew smiley faces between the slats. The camera's still there, but now it records memories instead of evidence. That's how we win. Not by forgetting what happened, but by choosing what we do with it. Last Sunday, I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, watching my daughter draw chalk art on the sidewalk, her favorite treehouse, birds, a dog she still begged for. A reporter had emailed me earlier that morning asking for a follow-up interview. "Hero Dad," the subject line said. But I'm not a hero. I was a father, and a man pushed too far. What I did wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming what fear had stolen. The right to feel safe in our own home. The right to raise a child without looking over our shoulder for clipboards, fines, or sadistic smiles behind manicured authority. Karen thought the fence kept people in line. She forgot that fences work both ways. Now we don't fear the fence anymore. We gather at it. We lean on it. We laugh across it. Because the only thing stronger than her rules was what we rebuilt when she was gone. What happened to my daughter should have never happened. No set of rules, no community guideline, and no title like HOA president should ever give someone the illusion that they have the right to hurt a child, trespass into a family's sanctuary, or abuse power in the name of order. But here's the truth. There are Karens everywhere. They don't always carry stun guns. Sometimes they carry clipboards, emails, fake smiles, and fear dressed up as policy. And if we let them, if we stay silent, polite, passive, they keep pushing. Until one day, it's your kid, your home, your dignity. I didn't become violent because I wanted to. I became violent because someone crossed a line they should have never approached. But this story isn't just about punishment. It's about what comes after. Because even after the court, after the sentence, after the neighborhood clapped and cheered, we still had to rebuild. We had to tear down fear and replace it with respect. We had to choose dignity over domination. And we had to remind ourselves, as neighbors and as people, that the purpose of a community is to protect each other, not police each other. If this story taught me anything, it's this. Being a parent isn't just about raising a child. It's about standing between them and the world when the world forgets how to act human. Justice doesn't always wear a badge or hold a gavel. Sometimes it's a father with a broken heart and blood on his knuckles. And power? It means nothing if it isn't rooted in compassion. So if you've ever been bullied by someone hiding behind rules, if you've ever felt small inside your own home, if someone like Karen ever tried to make you question your right to peace, stand up, speak out, and don't let them define what justice looks like. Are you someone who's ever dealt with a Karen in real life? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Let's make sure their kind never gets the last word. If this story hit you in the chest, drop a like to help it reach someone who needs to hear it. And if you're new here, subscribe for more stories that bring justice where it's overdue, and humanity where it's forgotten. Because this isn't just entertainment. This is a reminder that even in a quiet neighborhood, monsters exist, but so do people who fight back. Thank you for watching.